I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth, the supplement that helps women maintain optimal hormone levels with over 50,000 glowing reviews from women worldwide, and 98% saying they'd recommend it to friends and family. Well, now you can take those results even further by pairing it with their prebiotic collagen protein. It helps to relieve occasional bloating and gas, reduce sugar cravings, and help you feel satisfied longer, as well as boost energy and help stabilize mood swings. Because your gut directly affects your hormones, improving gut health can actually help your hormone harmony results, so you can feel like yourself again. Happy Mammoth is dedicated to making women's lives easier, and that means using only science-backed ingredients that have been proven to work for women. They make no compromise when it comes to quality, and it shows. Right now, you can try prebiotic collagen protein and hormone harmony risk-free and get 15% off your entire first order with code HAPPYME at checkout. That's code HAPPYME at happymammoth.com to get 15% off your entire first order.
New Vitamin Water Zero Sugar Pineapple Passion Fruit is packed with vitamins, just like the amount of peas we packed in that sentence. It's packed like your tote bag, the one you stole from your ex, or your overpriced half a studio apartment, or extra rushed rush hour traffic. Packed like your calendar, triple booked at 5, of course. Grab a vitamin water. Did we mention it's packed with vitamins?
Hello and welcome to Vulgar History, a feminist women's history comedy podcast. My name is Anne Foster and it is Marie Antoinette month. All month we're looking at the story of Marie Antoinette, the notorious queen of France. And so if you're listening to this now, when it's first coming out, so 2 days ago, we did Marie Antoinette part 2, which ended with the affair of the necklace. Maybe that's not how you found this episode. Maybe you found this in a different way. But where this fits into the chronology of the season is that we did Marie Antoinette part 1, Marie Antoinette part 2, and now this is kind of a bonus in-between episode where I'm just kind of filling in some blanks. So in 2019, one of the very first episodes ever of Vulgar History podcast, while I was still figuring out how to use a microphone and how not to say the word basically every other word, I did an episode about a woman called Jeanne de la Motte, who is the person who caused the affair, what's known as the affair of the necklace. So the Marie Antoinette episode we just did ended with, I gave sort of a short summary of the affair of the necklace. And now I wanted to replay this episode from 2019, Vulgar History Classique episode, because it's such a good story. And I think it bears sharing it again, especially because we were just talking about the effects that the diamond necklace scandal had on Marie Antoinette herself. So what you're about to hear is me from 2019, still a little baby podcaster figuring out how to get this shit done. But honestly, it's such a good story. I had to share it. And I do mention in this episode, we're talking about this necklace. I still stand firm that it is the ugliest necklace ever created. And if you want to see what it looks like, you can find it on my Instagram, Vulgar History Pod. In my highlights, there's a picture of the necklace and some other supporting images of the necklace itself. I think it's really important when you hear this story to understand just how ugly this necklace is. But some of the information that we have value added from the recent Marie Antoinette episode is that, first of all, when this whole scheme was happening, Marie Antoinette was not even into diamonds at the moment. She was in her clean girl era. She had never even really been a necklace girly. So the fact that these jewelers tried to sell it to her, it's like, it was just all a bad plan. Anyway, I'm going to play this episode and I'm going to pop back again at the end to just talk more about how this connects to our overall series. But honestly, it's just one of the greatest heist sagas of all time. It's such a good story. Jeanne de la Motte, an icon on this podcast. And enjoy this classique episode of Vulgar History. Hello and welcome to Vulgar History. My name is Anne Foster and this is a feminist women's history comedy podcast. For this, the inaugural season of this podcast, where I'm kind of figuring out what I'm doing and you're kind of figuring out what I'm doing, and we're all just sort of having a nice time figuring this all out, because I'm just a woman in Saskatoon sitting in my apartment with a microphone. Anyway, that's all the more time for me to tell stories to you. And so thus far in this season, we've been looking at women who, quote unquote, misbehaved, because inspired by the famous quote by Laurel Thatcher Ulrich, well-behaved women seldom make history. We're looking at women who made history because they did not, quote unquote, behave well in various different ways. And we've looked at women whose personality just sort of like bucked against the societal expectations and what people thought a princess should be like. We've looked at women who just lived tits out and did a body swap to avoid anyone finding out that she was not a virgin, and then killed a man and then admitted to it. And both of those women were from noble families. And today we're looking at another woman who was sort of from a noble family, but basically was a regular everyday lady. And that's what I really wanted to get to a story like this early on in the show, just to establish we're not talking about just royals. We're not talking about just rich people. It just so happens that if you're looking at what women in history have been written about, they tend to be rich people and royals, because other women just no one thought were interesting enough to write anything about, which is tragic. And that's why one day when I get a time machine, I want to go back and just hang out and see what life was like for the everyday people. Anyway, today we are looking at a woman whose full name is Jeanne de Valois-Saint-Remy. Then she got married and she became Jeanne Comtesse de la Motte. We're just going to call her Jeanne with my Canadian French accent. Basically, she was descended from the bastard son of a French royal. So she had like that slight royal lineage, but the French royals had a lot of illegitimate children, so it didn't really do much for her. So basically, she was descended from the Valois family, who were the rulers of France for a while. And we're going to look at some other members of the Valois family, perhaps in another episode. But basically, her great-grandfather was the illegitimate son of the French king, Henry II. Because of these sort of royal roots, they had sort of an allowance that the royal family gave to everybody who was sort of like a descendant of a descendant of a descendant of a French bastard, which is like great, but also not so great because it was not super a lot of money. So Jeanne and her sister were both sent off to convent school, and the plan for them was to become a nun, but as we shall see, that did not suit Jeanne's personality whatsoever. Although she might have found her way to do lots of cool stuff as a nun as well, but basically she liked stuff. She liked jewels, and she liked wealth, and she liked gorgeous outfits. And because this was, what year was she born? She was born in 1756. So this is like edging up on like French Revolution era / Marie Antoinette / like she likes the big wigs, the hats. Like she was somebody who was living in a material world. And she was a material girl, but she did not have very much money, but what she had was ambition. So after she basically left nunnery school, decided that wasn't for her, she went to stay with a family friend and then became pregnant with twins, which is just like, oh, if you're pregnant with twins and it's like the end of the 18th century, you just hope you don't die in childbirth. Basically, she did not. And like a month before she gave birth, she got married to a man who was the nephew of the family she was staying with. So she was married before she had the baby. She had baby twins, but they both died very, very young because infant mortality was pretty considerable then. And that did not stop her. So basically, her husband was a man named Nicolas de la Motte, who he called himself the Count or the Comte de la Motte, which was basically, I think, sort of a made up title that he just sort of called himself because he wanted to sound impressive, but actually he was just pretty boring and useless. And Jeanne, I'm guessing, again, she might have married him because of the whole pregnant with twins situation. The world and society she was living in, she had to marry the father of the twins or someone. Anyway, so she was not super into him because he was useless and she was just getting started living this amazing life that you're going to learn about So she not only liked glamour and jewels and dresses and giant wigs, but she also sort of felt that they were owed to her because her family was descended from this illegitimate royal family member. And before that, from an actual royal family member. So she just kind of saw, Marie Antoinette hanging out and felt like that should be me. I should be able to live this fancy, amazing life like she is leaving. So basically, she decided she wanted to get some more money. She wanted to get an increase in the allowance that she got as a descendant of a descendant of a descendant. And she's like, okay, who can she ask to give her this money that would actually give her this money when the French royal family was like paying this money to all these people and didn't have a lot to spare at the moment. And so she thought what she's going to do is talk directly to Marie Antoinette, like girl to girl. Just be like, hey, we're both like glamorous, amazing women. You get me, Marie Antoinette, like, can you please see about getting me more allowance money? And so the thing is, at the time, and I don't know all the details about how this whole situation goes, but it seems like anyone who's like dressed nicely enough could just like go to Versailles, which was where the French royal family lived, just go in there and hang out, which is like a pretty nice rule. So she figured she would just dress up nicely, go to Versailles, accidentally on purpose run to Marie Antoinette and be like, hey, can I get some more allowance money from you? But Marie Antoinette had heard about Jeanne, knew that she was sort of this like notorious sort of con artist type person and knew to basically avoid her. Meanwhile, in another part of Versailles, there was a man named Cardinal de Rohan who was basically on the outs with Marie Antoinette because he was obsessed with her and gross. He tried to stop her from marrying her husband, Louis XVI. And basically, she had kicked him out of court because he was gross and obsessed with her. And he would do anything to win her affection back, basically. So that's Cardinal de Rohan. Remember that name? Basically, Jeanne was like, okay, I can't get in to see Marie Antoinette, but I need to just figure out what's going on around court, learn what the goss is, and find a way that I can get close to Marie Antoinette and get this money, or find another way to get money. In the meantime, Jeanne took a lover who was a famous gigolo named Rétaux de Villette, and she also became the lover of Cardinal de Rohan. So she's married, took two lovers. Do it. Yes, just live your life. And so spending time with Rohan, she like quickly learned like he's obsessed with Marie Antoinette and just like really wants to be friends with her again. So Jeanne was like, what a crazy coincidence. I happen to be totally great friends with Marie Antoinette, distant relative, etc. And if you want, I can like put in a good word for you. If you, Cardinal de Rohan, pay me, Jeanne, just like lots of money and jewels. And Rohan basically did. He gave her money and jewels and she pretended that she was putting a good word with Marie Antoinette, but she wasn't actually doing that. And this is just kind of like a way for her to get money and jewels because she was all about that luxury lifestyle. And then the necklace. So I'm going to post a picture of the necklace on the Instagram, which is Vulgar History Pod at Instagram, just so you can understand what I'm talking about. It is the ugliest necklace in the history of, okay, it's like, I'll describe it to you, but like, just go to the Instagram to see this picture. So meanwhile, in another part of France, two jewelry makers had made the most expensive necklace in the history of jewelry, and was also, I would say, the ugliest necklace in the history of jewelry. These two men had made it because they had hoped that the previous king's mistress, so not Marie Antoinette's husband, Marie Antoinette's father-in-law's mistress, who is a woman named Madame du Barry, who we will talk about on another podcast, almost definitely. Basically, these jewelers had made this disgusting necklace, hoping that Madame du Barry would want to buy it. Then she died, and they were left with this like extremely expensive necklace. That's okay. It's sort of like if you made an apron out of diamonds, but like really tacky with tassels at the bottom, connected to a multi-layer choker, also made of diamonds and sort of held together with ribbons. It's sort of like a pinny, like when you're playing sports in elementary school and you have to like wear a pinny. It's like a pinny made of diamonds with jeweled bows on it and 4 tassels, like 4 giant tassels. It's just like so ugly, but there's so many diamonds on it. It was like super expensive. And the thing is, so these jewelers have made this disgusting necklace and they're like, okay, so Madame de Berry is dead, but let's try and get Marie Antoinette to buy it. But obviously Marie Antoinette would not buy it because it was disgusting looking and also insanely expensive. And she did not want to spend that much money. So they were just like, oh my God, we have this disgusting necklace. It costs so much money, but no one's buying it. So that means that we're actually sort of going bankrupt over just having it. Oh, and also the necklace itself was so heavy, like it was uncomfortable to wear. So it's like disgusting and impractical and heavy and uncomfortable to wear. So basically, it was this nightmare. They should never have made it. And Jeanne was like, this is the opportunity I've been waiting my whole life for. So she assembled her squad. And I have to say, having done just a couple episodes so far, when one of the women we talk about assembles a squad, I'm just like, oh shit, it's getting real. Like, I love a squad. I love a team leader. So Jeanne put together a team of people for this, like, for her plan. So the squad was herself, her husband, Nicholas, who was just kind of like there, ballast. Her gigolo lover, de Villette, was also involved. And the mark was going to be Cardinal de Rohan. So the thing is that her lover, de Villette, was skilled at forgery, which is like, you know, he's a gigolo / forger. Like, that's good. Diversify your skill set. So he made fake letters that were allegedly between Marie Antoinette to Jeanne to make it look like the two of them were like super good friends, the two women. So she showed the letters to Rohan, and the letters were basically de Villette having written as though he was Marie Antoinette, saying like, I, Marie Antoinette, I want this disgusting necklace. I want this diamond apron that hurts the neck. Ugh, but this necklace is too expensive and my husband, the king, won't give me permission to buy it. If only someone like Cardinal de Rohan would like lend me the money so I could buy the necklace. So this is the letter. Like, de Villette wrote a letter from Marie Antoinette to Jeanne saying like, if only someone would loan me, Marie Antoinette, the money to buy this disgusting necklace, which is like quite a letter, basically, saying just exactly what Jeanne needed it to say for the whole plan to work. And so Rohan, Cardinal de Rohan, was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, Marie Antoinette wants money to buy this disgusting necklace. Like, if I loan her the money, then maybe she'll let us be friends again, even though I, Rohan, am totally creepy. And Jeanne was like, great. This is totally, you know what? I'm so happy to bring the two of you together in friendship. And I, Jeanne, I'll be the middleman. I'll be the intermediary. So I, Jeanne, will pick up the necklace from the jeweler's shop, and then I'll pick up Rohan's money, and then I'll exchange them, basically, but don't worry about it. The plan was like weirdly convoluted, and even de Rohan, who was willing to believe almost anything if it meant that he could be friends with Marie Antoinette, was like, this seems a little sketchy. So I'd just like to confirm with Marie Antoinette that this is all actually what she wants to have happen. And Jeanne was like, okay, I'm not going to let this. She's got a plan and she's going to stick to her plan. And so what she did is she went out and she found a woman who looked a lot like Marie Antoinette. This woman, her name was Nicole Le Guay d'Oliva, who was a sex worker. And basically, Nicole was told to just go to Versailles, dress up fancy. Anyone could get in, apparently. And just sit in this garden in Versailles. And then when Rohan comes by, just kind of be non-committal and pretend like you like him. So Nicole went to the garden, dressed like Marie Antoinette, and just kind of was like, yeah, okay, smiled and nodded to what Rohan said. She agreed to forgive Rohan. She might not have even known she was impersonating the queen. She just knew to dress up fancy and go to Versailles, which is what she did. I can't see how she wouldn't know she was impersonating the queen, like Rohan probably must have called her Your Majesty, etc. But anyway, so Nicole was just like, she got paid and she did her job, and great job, Nicole. So Nicole did what she needed to do, and Rohan was back on board. So Jeanne was sent out to do her obvious plan. So she went to pick up the necklace from the jewelers, and the jewelers were told that Rohan was behind the purchase and Jeanne was sort of his messenger person. But they were told that they couldn't give the necklace directly to the queen because, the queen allegedly didn't want her husband to know about it. So they were told, give the necklace to Jeanne and she'll give it to the queen. And then the money Rohan will pay you later, basically. So Jeanne didn't pay the jewelers. They just gave her this, I don't even know, 50-pound diamond penny with tassels on the bottom. 4 tassels. It's you might think you know what? Are you just exaggerating? It's no, it's actively ugly looking. It's just so ugly. And now we're just going to take a break for a word from our sponsors. Everyone's talking these days about weight loss medication, but fewer people are talking about how hard they are to access. That's because Hers is changing that with transparent pricing, expert care, and a personalized plan that's actually built and priced for where you're at. Hers is transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans. They connect you with a medical provider who will work with you to determine the best treatment option for you. Whether you want to lose weight, grow thicker, fuller hair, or find relief for anxiety, Hers has you covered. Visit forhers.com/vulgar to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's forhers.com/vulgar. Forhers.com/vulgar. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not approved or reviewed for safety, effectiveness, or quality by the FDA. Prescription required. See website for full details, important safety information, and restrictions. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased.
You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. This podcast you're listening to, it was once just a dream. A dream that became reality not by accident, but because someone decided not to let the what-ifs keep them from creating something they believed in. Starting your own business is a dream lots of us share, but too many let it remain just a dream. Don't hold yourself back from creating what you believe in, and turn those what-ifs into why-nots with Shopify by your side. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started. What if I can't design a website? Shopify's got you with beautiful, ready-to-go templates to match your brand's style. What if I need a hand? Get help with everyday tasks like enhancing product images, writing product descriptions, or generating discount codes with Shopify's AI tools created for commerce. What if people haven't heard about my brand? Shopify helps you find your customers with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns. And what if I get stuck? Shopify's always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer support. So turn those dreams into and give them the best shot at success with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/realm. Go to shopify.com/realm. Shopify.com/realm. Summer really lends itself to a minimal effort, maximum impact makeup look. When it comes to looking and feeling your best, especially in the August heat, sometimes less is more. And when you're working with fewer products, you want the quality to be high, which is why Thrive Cosmetics is your go-to for a simple, clean, and radiant summer look. Every product is 100% vegan, cruelty-free, and made with clean, skin-loving ingredients that work with your skin, not against it. One of my favorite Less is More products is their Brilliant Eye Brightener. It's a waterproof eyeshadow and highlighter stick that comes in 34 shades. The shimmer shades are great for brightening up your inner corners, and they also have really lovely neutral matte shades that, again, can make a really big impact on your overall look without requiring too much product. Plus, for every product purchased, Thrive Cosmetics donates products and funds to help communities thrive. And with over $150 million in product and cash donations to over 600 giving partners, your purchase directly fuels real impact. Maximize your look with minimal effort. Go to thrivecosmetics.com/thrive for an exclusive offer of 20% off your first order. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/thrive.
And we're back. Anyway, she got the jewels and then she brought the necklace to her husband, Nicholas. And then just like in that part in Ocean's 8 where Mindy Kaling was, she took the necklace apart, hiding off in the room. Nicholas disassembled the necklace into just like all separate diamonds. Side note, in Ocean's 8, there is a part where they're in the room with all the necklaces and the jewelry and stuff. And one of the necklaces there is in fact a replica of this necklace. I was like, oh my God, it's the necklace from this. So once you've seen the picture, maybe you'll know what I mean. Or maybe you saw that movie and you know this whole story and you're like, I noticed that too, and that was amazing. Anyway, so Nicholas took apart the necklace and he started just sort of like low-key selling the diamonds, like a few at a time at like different shops. So nobody thought like, why does this man have literally 50 pounds of diamonds? The jewelers, meanwhile, were like, why isn't anyone paying us for the necklace? And then they realized like, oh shit, we just clearly got conned. And then they had Cardinal de Rohan, arrested for defrauding them because they thought he was one behind everything. They thought he had sent Jeanne there. They thought he was going to pay for it. Rohan, of course, didn't know that anything untoward was happening. And so he and he also has no chill. So he just like squealed on everybody. So he said, basically, Jeanne, I think, was behind this. Also, de Valette, the gigolo, Nicole, the sex worker. And also, he just, I can't remember exactly why this happened, but he also was like, and Count Cagliostro, which is just like, he just brought him in as well. So that's just happening. So all these people were brought in on this con, but the thing is, this is France. It's like just before the French Revolution happened. So like the people of France just like really hated the king and queen at the moment. They would believe any terrible thing anybody said about them. So even though Marie Antoinette had nothing to do with any of this, the letters were forged. She didn't want the necklace. She'd never been friends with Jeanne. She still hated Rohan, but everybody was just kind of like, ugh, Marie Antoinette, we know all about her. I bet she wanted the necklace. I bet she got Rohan to buy it for her. So like they were ready to believe the worst about her. And so the only way that Marie Antoinette and her husband figured they could prove their innocence was to have like a giant public trial for Jeanne and her co-conspirators. But, plot twist, the very act of having a public trial basically backfired because Jeanne went up on the stand and she put on an amazing show. She just acted like a martyr and she's just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in this position. Like, I never did anything bad a day in my life. And everybody, like, she just won everybody's sympathy. And everybody already was predisposed to hate Marie Antoinette and the king. So it didn't take a lot for Jeanne to win their sympathy, but still, like, she put on a show and she did a good job there. And there wasn't like newspaper, tabloid press, but there was like pamphlets. And so all these pamphlets got published about how like she was the true victim and people like cheered her when she went in and out of court. And so eventually Cardinal Rohan, Nicole, and Count Cagliostro were all acquitted, although the two men were sent into exile. De Valette, the gigolo/forger, was also exiled from the country. And Jeanne was, despite having all this public sympathy, she was found guilty of basically being a con artist, and she was sentenced to be whipped, branded, and imprisoned. But even though like the whole squad were literally found guilty, Marie Antoinette was still super unpopular and everybody still kind of blamed her for the whole thing. But so you might think, that's it. Jeanne is going to be whipped, branded, sent to prison, and that's the last you ever heard of her. But that's not what happened. What happened is she disguised herself as a boy and escaped from prison. It's like went all the way to London. Like she crossed the waters to get from France all the way over to England. She went to London, and then she published her autobiography, which was called Memoirs of the Comtesse de Valois de la Motte, which was her sort of fake title she got from her husband combined with her own actual sort of royal illegitimate name. Anyway, she disguised herself as a boy, went to England, and published her memoirs, which is how we know a lot of what we know about her. And so, like any good memoirist, she did her best to make herself come across as the heroine. She, just leaning into public sentiment, made Marie Antoinette seem like the bad guy in this whole situation. So this all seems like she might have then lived happily ever after in London as a popular memoir writer, just sort of like this famous person. But plot twist, she died at age 35, having fallen out of her hotel room window. So this is like, what? Basically, she was perhaps jumped out of her hotel window trying to escape from debt collectors, not to intentionally kill herself, but just to escape. But she apparently injured herself very badly, broken legs, just like awful. But also, like, did she jump? Was she pushed? I mean, nobody knows, but basically that is what happened. So she died in 1791, August 23rd, 1791, which was basically 2 years before Marie Antoinette herself was executed during the French Revolution. And so the two women were connected in this weird way. They both died within 2 years of each other. And if you want to pay your regards to this heroine, Jeanne is buried in London, where she died. She's buried in St. Mary's Churchyard in Lambeth in London, England. So first, I just super want to shout out where I first heard about this story. It's from an amazing book, literally one of the best books I think I've ever read in my life. True story. Is the true crime / historical nonfiction book, How to Ruin a Queen by Jonathan Beckman. He just gets in depth into all of this and just like explaining who Jeanne is, who her co-conspirators are, like what the mood was like in France, just like all the weird details of like literally this whole saga, which is just like, it's just like, how is this even a true story? Like every plot twist is just like, what? And then that, really? There's a couple movie versions of this. In 2001, there's a Hilary Swank movie that came out called The Affair of the Necklace. And that's what this whole thing became known as to history. The whole ugly necklace, tricking the jewelers into giving it to her, Marie Antoinette becoming the villain. Like, it's just known as The Affair of the Necklace. And that's also the title of the Hilary Swank movie, which is like, for costumes, great. For like hairstyles, great. But it really kind of overcompensates in trying to make Jeanne sympathetic, where she should just really be this like badass con artist, I think. But here they try and make it, I don't know, it's just, they're trying to make you feel bad for her to like understand why she did this, where it's like, I understand why she did this. Like, she wanted a luxurious life and she saw what people were doing in Versailles. She was super smart and she did it. Anyway, the movie is worth seeing because every version of this story is worth seeing. And also Hilary Swank does a good job and the costumes and hair are super amazing. And actually, now I'm just remembering, that is where I heard about the whole thing to begin with before I even read the book. Frock Flicks is a website where costume designers talk about different costumes in different movies, etc. And they sort of explain what's accurate and what's not accurate. And so they did a post about this movie, The Affair of the Necklace, where they especially complimented how the wigs were so good in this movie. And I was like, what is this Affair of the Necklace? Then I looked it up. Then I found the Jonathan Beckman book. And here we all are, and our lives are so much better. There was a 1946 French film, L'Affaire du Collier de la Reine, so the affair of the necklace, basically in French. 1929, there was a German silent film called Cagliostro, and then the 1979 Japanese anime Rose of Versailles involved some of this stuff as well. And now it is time to get on to scoring this, basically, to see where Jeanne de Valois Saint-Remy de la Motte fits on our scandalicious scale. So, I mean, if for some reason you haven't listened to the previous episodes of this podcast, this is where I score the story. Just not because I'm not scoring the people. I don't want to say that any person is any more valuable than any other person, but just like in terms of a story, how do these all rank? And then at the end of the season, we can see kind of like which was the most scandalicious story we went to. So there's 4 categories. The first of which is the eponymous scandaliciousness score. So for Jeanne, we've got a lot. We've got a lot to work with here. We've got and again, like the scandaliciousness is like in the time and place where she lived. So the fact that she was 8 months pregnant with twins when she got married and she gave birth to the babies a month after the wedding, pretty scandaliciousness, like for the time and place. The fact that she, in short order, took 2 lovers, one of whom was a infamous gigolo / letter forger, scandalicious. The fact that she took up with Cardinal de Rohan, pretended she was friends with Marie Antoinette, and executed the entire affair of the necklace. I mean, we're getting into scheminess next, but in terms of scandaliciousness, just the fact that this is going to be a high score. I think there was no murder involved in this story, which is why I'm going to give her a 9 out of 10. Had there been, like, she had a squad, she had the, like, sexy, the affairs with the men, she had the baby a month after she was married, like, scandaliciousness is there, but I'm giving her a 9 out of 10 because there was no actual murder committed here. Not that murders should be committed, but in terms of like a story and how scandalicious is the story, that's how I'm grading her. Because the last episode, Frances Howard, I mean, she got a 10 for scandaliciousness and she deserved it. The next category is scheminess, and this is where I think Jeanne can really step up. So the complexity of her plan, like she took up with Rohan, figured out that he wanted to be friends with Marie Antoinette, found out about this ugly necklace, realized she could use the ugly necklace and Rohan's feelings for Marie Antoinette together so that she could get the necklace for herself, bringing in Nicole, the Marie Antoinette lookalike sex worker. Like the levels of this, like, for scheminess, I think, I don't know. I don't want to like score everybody really high because then it's like, where can you go from there? But at the same time, I'm going to give her an 8 for scheminess because while this was amazing scheminess, and then the fact that she disguised herself as a boy to escape prison and went to England, like her scheminess, super high. But I'll say is basically, it was the one scheme and it was an amazing scheme. But like to get a 10 in scheminess, I think you need to have like numerous schemes. So a 8 in scheminess. Significance is the next category, and this is an interesting one to think about because at the time, and I think this is what we're finding a lot of the stories, like these stories seemed huge at the time, but they became sort of more ephemeral. But the affair of the necklace was, I think, one of numerous factors, but it was one of the factors that really led to the French Revolution. Like this specific thing wasn't like the straw that broke the camel's back, but it just made everybody hate Marie Antoinette a little bit more, which just got everybody a bit more worked up. The fact that she was this martyr got everybody else more worked up. Like the significance is not like she didn't throw the match that started the fire, but she was like, if the fire was a pile of hay, this was like a big old clump of hay in that fire. If that's a metaphor, I don't know. But overall, like the significance to like world history, I'm gonna give her a 3, I think. Like it is significant, but we're gonna look at other people whose stories have more significance. The final scoring factor is the sexism bonus. And I think, redefine that, because the first 2 episodes we did were both wealthy, noble women. Jeanne kind of was noble, but she was also an impoverished peasant. So there's classism and there's sexism, and they go together, especially in these stories of women like Jeanne. So for this, we're looking at how much did the fact that she was a woman and that she was a poor woman, how much did that hold her back? How much did that affect her life? Like, if she had been a man in the society, how might things have turned out differently? And this is an interesting one. Again, I thought that this bonus would be much more apparent in figuring out these scores, but sort of like with Frances Howard, like Jeanne she was a woman, and it was a shitty time to be a woman. It was a shitty time to be a poor woman, but she kind of saw the cards she was dealt and went from there. So like, she got married young, pregnant, which is like probably not her fondest dream, but that kind of got her the marriage, so she was able to do that. Like, basically, she could have stayed in the nunnery, and that would have been an okay life, but she got married instead. She took the lovers. She had all this ambition, and she was able to pull off this plan because she was a woman. But I will say, had she been born a man with this much ambition and cleverness and drive, she may have not taken the fall quite as much as she did. Like, I think the fact that all the men involved in her scheme were sent into exile, whereas she was like whipped and thrown in prison. I mean, that's the sexism right there. So everybody, as far as I can imagine, is always going to get at least a 5 in the sexism area. Lower class women would also get the sexism/classism. I'm going to give her a 7 in this category, which adds up to 27. She gets a 27 out of 40, which is, I think, the highest score of anybody yet. And I mean, well deserved. The whole like well-behaved women seldom make history thing. She is like such an example of a woman who we know about her. Well, firstly, because Jonathan Beckman wrote that amazing book, because Frogflix did the review of the Hilary Swank film, and because I'm doing this podcast now. But we know about her. Like, she wrote her own autobiography. Oh, I forgot she wrote her own autobiography. I'm not going to reconsider her score. Like, I'm happy with the score, but just like, she was a legend. Like, she made sure that we all knew who she was. Like, the actions she did, she reframed them herself, writing her biography, like these pamphlets that came out about her. Like, she got the free publicity and she just leaned into it. Like, she epitomizes well-behaved women seldom make history, because like, nothing about her was well-behaved, except she pretended like she was when she was. It's almost like a Scarlet Pimpernel scenario, speaking of revolutionary France, where she's just like, seems like this sort of like, you know, lovely lady hanging out in Versailles, just being whatever, while secretly in the shadows, she's like this criminal mastermind. And I wish she had lived longer. I wish she had done more schemes. I wish there's more to know about Jeanne. But I mean, considering she only lived to be 35, she really made herself a legend, and for that I respect her. And I mean, a score, she's got the high score so far, 27 on our scandaliciousness scale. So this is Vulgar History. My name is Anne Foster, and I've got all social media things all set up. The previous episodes that I recorded, I didn't have that stuff ready, but now I can tell you all about it. So on Instagram, we are at Vulgar History Pod. On Twitter, we are at Vulgar History. And let me know what you think about Jeanne, about her score of 27 out of 40. Would you have scored her higher? Would you have scored her lower? Who else do you think would be a good episode to talk about? You can also check out on my Patreon, which is patreon.com/AnneFosterWriter. And if you become a patron, one of the perks you get is you can vote on a poll, which is helping to figure out who should I do more podcasts about, or who should I write blog posts about, because there's a never-ending supply of amazing and interesting women I keep finding out about. You know, it's like any internet sort of black hole. Like you look up a thing and then you click on that and then you find out something else and then something else. And then suddenly you're just like, oh my God, who is this obscure story I've never heard about? And the next thing you know, I'm in the university library reading like articles, like trying to find out about somebody that not a lot of people have talked about before. It's exciting. I love finding an exciting story. And again, for this one, which is just like one of my favorite stories ever, I can't recommend enough How to Ruin a Queen by Jonathan Beckman. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And otherwise, I guess I will talk to you all next time. Have a great week, everybody. So I love revisiting this episode now that we've been doing the Marie Antoinette season for the last quite a while. First, in the context of the necklace was first made by these jewelers who thought that Golf King Louis XV would want to buy this for his mistress, basic bitch, Madame du Barry. We did an episode about Madame du Barry a bit ago where we talked about how she was just like, she was born, poor. She raised herself up, and her aesthetic was just really like maximalist, extreme, tacky. It's an aesthetic that I appreciate, that I value, that lots of people have. And the people who have this aesthetic tend to be new money people. People who weren't born rich tend to like to splash, to be wearing, name brand on name brand on name brand, like, adding so many accessories all the time. That was Madame du Barry's whole vibe. And again, I respect it. And I have nothing but love for this whole aesthetic. But knowing that that's what she was like, yeah, you know what? She probably was the only person in human history who would have wanted and would have worn happily this necklace. But then Golf King Louis XV died, and these jewelers were just like, oh fuck, like who do we have? Who's another person who's like rich enough to buy this disgusting necklace we've made? Maybe the king. Maybe he'd want to buy it from Marie Antoinette, who had been, even when she was in her most loud maximalist style, it was always like in terms of headgear, in terms of interesting dresses, earrings. Marie Antoinette loved wearing long earrings to showcase her long neck, which she was very proud of. But she wore necklaces, but she was never into this extreme of a necklace. So like, of course she didn't want it. And the context we know from the previous episode of Vulgar History, Marie Antoinette Part 2, is that she was also in a more of a frugal era of her life. So she wouldn't have wanted to spend this money on this necklace she didn't want anyway. So the fact that this became believable to everybody that she would have wanted this necklace, that's just some more context. And now I understand more fully, having researched Marie Antoinette as well. Cardinal Rohan, I think, is even more odious than when I first recorded this episode. He's just such a gross guy. He was part of Hateration Nation. He was spreading these rumors about Marie Antoinette that made her look bad. He had been actively working against her. And then he was like, how dare she not want to hang out with me? Like, bitch, why would she? Come on. So he sucks. The fact that people sided with him in this trial sucks. I appreciate that Jeanne de la Motte escaped, disguised as a boy. On this podcast, we love a disguise. We love an escape. Something that I also learned in the Marie Antoinette research is that when she wrote her memoir, it's not just like she wrote a memoir and got it published. Like, it was similar now to indie publishing. Like, someone had to pay for this book to be manufactured. She didn't have money to do that. And so she was sponsored by, guess who? Hateration Nation, some political enemies who hated Marie Antoinette and knew that Jeanne de la Motte's memoir coming out would help further vilify Marie Antoinette. Part of what she alleged in these memoirs was that she and Marie Antoinette had been lesbians together. And that was a big thing that was being used against Marie Antoinette as a way to portray her as monstrous, because in that era, lesbianism was sort of like equated with just nymphomania and people just having out of control sexuality, because any sex that wasn't procreative was just sort of seen as like the most licentious thing you could do. Anyway, so there's like pamphlets that were printed of like Marie Antoinette and Jeanne de la Motte like fingering each other or whatever, like scissoring. Anyway, I wanted to drop this episode in to revisit it because it provides context to the previous episode, Marie Antoinette Part 2. Next week, I can get into Marie Antoinette Part 3, post affair of the diamond necklace era and what she got up to. And I'm making a face you can't see because this isn't a video episode, but like, it's nothing good. Things just kind of don't go well for our girl next week, but she does find time to have some joy in her life, largely from being a mother of children. There's two things I want to shout out as well in this episode. Firstly is that the necklace is such an iconic piece of jewelry. It's ugly as a necklace, yes, but it's so ugly that it's kind of great. And it also looks nice in a t-shirt design rather than as a necklace, in my personal opinion. And you can get a t-shirt with the necklace on it. It's a design in my merch store that's called The Affair of the Necklace, the t-shirt with a lot of colons in it. Anyway, it's designed by an artist called Hirol Chabert, and it's beautiful. And thank you so much to Hirol Chabert for designing this so perfectly. So it's like a t-shirt with a black background, and then in white, it looks like you're wearing the necklace, but it's a t-shirt. Anyway, you can get a copy or get a t-shirt like this from the Vulgar History store, which you can reach by going to vulgarhistory.com/store. If you're in the US, that takes you to a shop with like okay shipping rates and stuff. If you're anywhere else other than the US, I recommend going to our other store, which is on Redbubble. So go to vulgarhistory.redbubble.com. That t-shirt is there, as well as our other beautiful merch. And if you want to buy some actually tasteful, actually nice jewelry that doesn't cost $5 million, I would encourage you to visit our brand partner, Common Era Jewelry, which is, again, I have to emphasize, it's like demure minimalist jewelry, if that's more your aesthetic. She does have some pieces with diamonds, including there are, on Common Era Jewelry, they have new an engagement ring collection, which features lab-grown diamonds. And the rings are inspired by classical history, including like ancient British history, ancient Roman history. They're all really beautiful pieces. And if you use code VULGAR at the checkout, you will get 15% off your order at Common Era Jewelry. And yeah, we'll be back next week with another episode of Vulgar History, Marie Antoinette Part 3. I don't want you to dread listening to it because the story is like fucked up and interesting. But I think Marie Antoinette's carefree party girl ways are no longer as possible as they were. So she has to power through and to find a way to find some joy for herself in this new post-diamond necklace scandal era. Anyway, I'll be in touch with you. You can listen to me again on the podcast next week when we have Marie Antoinette Part 3. And until then, keep your pants on and your tits out. Vulgar History is researched, scripted, and hosted by Anne Foster. That's me. Editor is Christina Lumagi. Theme music is by the Severin Duo. Transcripts of this podcast are available at vulgarhistory.com by Aveline Malik. You can get early, ad-free episodes of Vulgar History by becoming a paid member of our Patreon for as low as $1 a month at patreon.com/AnneFosterWriter. Vulgar History merchandise is available at vulgarhistory.com/store for Americans, and for everyone else at vulgarhistory.redbubble.com. Follow us on social media at Vulgar History Pod, and get in touch with me via email at vulgarhistorypod@gmail.com.
American history is full of infamous tales that continue to captivate audiences decades or even hundreds of years after they happened. On the Infamous America podcast, you'll hear the true stories of the Salem witch trials and the escape attempts from Alcatraz, of bank robbers like John Dillinger and Pretty Boy Floyd, of killers like Lizzie Borden and Charles Starkweather, of mysteries like the Black Dahlia and D.B. Cooper, and of events that inspired movies like Goodfellas, Killers of the Flower Moon, Zodiac, 8 Men Out, and many more. I'm Chris Wimmer. Join me as we crisscross the country from the Miami drug wars and Dixie Mafia in the South, to mobsters in Chicago and New York, to arsonists, kidnappers, and killers in California, to unsolved mysteries in the heartland and in remote corners of Alaska. Every episode features narrative writing and cinematic music, and there are hundreds of episodes available to binge. Find Infamous America wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Amy Nicholson, the film critic for the LA Times.
And I'm Paul Scheer, an actor, writer, and director. You might know me from The League, Veep, or my non-eligible for Academy Award role in Twisters.
We love movies, and we come at them from different perspectives.
Yeah, like Amy thinks that, Joe Pesci was miscast in Goodfellas, and I don't.
He's too old. Let's not forget that Paul thinks that Dune 2 is overrated.
It is.
Anyway, Despite this, we come together to host Unspooled, a podcast where we talk about good movies, critical hits,
fan favorites, must-sees, and in case you missed them.
We're talking Parasite to Home Alone.
From Grease to The Dark Knight.
We've done deep dives on popcorn flicks. We've talked about why Independence Day deserves a second look.
And we've talked about horror movies, some that you've never even heard of, like Ganja and Hess.
So if you love movies like we do, come along on our cinematic adventure.
Listen to Unspooled wherever you get your podcasts.
And don't forget to hit the follow button.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Tom.
Okay, so you want to tell him, or you want me to tell him?
No. I got this. People out there.
Yeah.
People, lean in. Get close. Listen, here's the deal.
We got big news.
We got monumental news. We got snacktacular news.
Yeah, after a brief hiatus, my good friend Michael Ian Black and I are coming back.
My good friend Tom Cavanaugh and I are coming back to do what we do best.
What we were put on this earth to do.
To pick a snack.
To eat a snack.
And to rate a snack.
Scientifically.
Emotionally.
Spiritually.
Mates is back.
Mike and Tom Eat Snacks is back.
A podcast for anyone with a mouth.
With a mouth. Available wherever you get your podcasts.